Well, we're glad to welcome you this evening. Our numbers are small. I just saw another vehicle maybe pulling in, so maybe we'll have some more folks. But also online, we're able to communicate with you, and I realize everybody couldn't be here this evening. I think it's important for us to have a conversation. It's a big decision when you're talking about selling a building that's been here for so long and relocating and maybe having a little bit different inclination toward the mission that we're going to be doing. And so I thought to hear questions and to entertain any comments before the night of the vote would be good, so that when we come together, we understand what it's all about. Well, the first thing I would share with you is just a little bit about how all this came to pass. I visited East Waynesville Church a couple of times and preached over there well over a year ago. And the church was already in decline, and you know some of the history. It's bad when you start looking online for things and you have CNN comments popping up about some of the stuff that happened there, the division and so forth. So that's not a good thing. But I think the people there tried very much to move beyond that, and it's a difficult, challenging thing. But they were in decline, so in looking at the Constitution and bylaws, when Pastor Sharp and his family pretty much were the only ones attending for several months, he shared with me that their Constitution and bylaws said that if the church were to dissolve, that those properties and assets would come to the association. So we gave it some time and prayed through it, and sure enough, they voted to dissolve the church. And in doing so, we got a lawyer involved to help us to make sure everything was on the up and up, and went through that process of acquiring those properties. And so all that's been filed with the Secretary of State, and it's now ours to use. But our intention always was from the outset to use it for ministry. And so in the process of time, after we acquired that property, we started discussing among our leaders here, and they actually surfaced the idea first of us selling this current facility and moving over there. So to me, it became a matter of stewardship. That's a nice property over there, and the land and so forth, but most people aren't looking to buy a church building. But where we're located here, it's a prime piece of real estate for business. So we own both of those properties. So if we're talking about selling one, this would seem to be the logical one to me. It's a matter of what we could get from that to, number one, renovate East Waynesville Church and make it into the Haywood Baptist Mission Center, and then have monies left over beyond that to help fund our mission work. So in that discussion, we talked about turning that facility, number one, into our offices, using the auditorium to help plant new churches, give them a place to meet until they could get out on their own. Also to turn some of those mini Sunday school rooms into quarters where mission teams could come in and stay. Put in showers, men's and women's showers in there as well, to where, say for instance, we hope we don't have another flood like we did, but you never know. But I spoke to some folks from the state convention back a number of months ago, and they have a desire maybe to find a place where they can also do a training center for mission teams and so forth. And so it might be, not making promises, but if we put this up for sale, it might be the state convention would want to come in here. They'd have to do a few little things to make that sort of thing happen, but it could happen. But those are some of the thoughts that I have. But to have a place for Bible conferences, to have educational space, and so many great things have happened here, and God's blessed across the years. And I don't see this as saying, what's happened in the past, that's over and done with. But what we're talking about is a continuation of that legacy in the future, building on it and expanding it in times to come. So those are just a few thoughts from me. And there's a lot of other things I could talk about, but I don't want to dominate the conversation. So let me throw it out for any questions that you might have. What are some? Well, we never know what the future is going to hold and what the government might do. We know right now we're a nonprofit. So in conversation, one of the first things I did was visit with the city planners there in Waynesville because that is in the city limits where that facility is located. And there's no property tax. We don't pay property tax here. We would not pay it there as long as we're using it for religious purposes. And again, it's a neighborhood. So I want to make sure there weren't any kind of zoning restrictions. And they, as long as we're, again, using it for religious purposes, for worship and ministry, then there's no prohibition there. Other than they don't want us to, like put stacks of lumber out in the side of the yard or things like that, obviously. The neighbors might not appreciate that, but that's not our intention anyway. So I don't think any of those government areas or anything like that is going to be a problem. If we come to the place where that property is being taxed over there, then you can be sure this property and your church and all the rest of them will be. So we don't know, but right now we're good by the grace of God from that end. Okay. So tomorrow I will be meeting with a member of Encouraging Word who does inspections. And so I'll meet him at 8:30, and he's going to go through with a fine-tooth comb and look at everything structurally. And of course, he can't give a guaranteed price, but he can give a ballpark figure of those things. And I know I had heard someone express to me that maybe there were some structural issues. It's not obvious to me. You don't see cracks in the blocks and that sort of thing, like settling or things that would happen significantly if there were structural issues. But I'm a preacher, so I don't know all those things. But the floors seem to be, again, solid without obvious cracks and all that sort of thing that comes when there's some kind of structural issue. I think probably from what little I know, I think the heating and air conditioning may be a problem. If I just had to say is something going to have to be replaced, I have a hunch that might be. And that's not a cheap thing. But again, we'll have enough monies and more left over, I think. So I'd hate to try to give you an estimate, but I will assure you and I will assure everybody there, if it's going to be something exorbitant, then we'll just have to back up and punt and come up with something else. But I don't anticipate it. Now it'll be a good ticket item, I'll promise you that. But you can't remodel your bedroom, without it being expensive. So, but we think it's an investment, which is to say, and I come back to this, and I want y'all to hear me that are listening. If we stay here and do nothing, there's going to have to be a good bit of expense that's going to take place right here. So we're not getting out of having to pay by just refusing to move. Things, it's the state of nature. They decline, don't they? But I think it's a great opportunity there to do that. And really, their parking lot's in a lot better shape than ours, to tell you the truth. And I think the roof it's a metal roof, so it looks like it's in pretty good condition as well. So, but we're going to check all that out. And I wish we'd have done it beforehand, but the fella had a death in his family, and so he just was not able to get to it till then. It's on city water, city sewer, as far as I know.
Handle housing.
Yeah.
Lots of people.
Yeah. In fact, there's four bathrooms already in there, and a kitchen, as well. So all that running water, we've been paying the water bill, taking care of all of that. So yeah.
Be able to do that.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, it can be used right now. And I said the same thing to folks there about the Sunday school classrooms. Now, obviously, there's a lot of clutter that would have to be moved out. Old flowers and things like that. They might have gone back to bygone days. Some of those old poinsettias and all those things. You know how Baptists are about those things, collecting them. But the reality is that, it's usable right now. And so if somebody wanted to go in next Sunday and have a worship service, we would be glad for them to do that. So our pastors' conference that meets in here, would be able to meet there, and also other associational meetings that we might have. But then a church plant could get established there also, and we would work with them. So that's a great opportunity to me to be able to do. Yeah. There is a church van that's there. Also, I think a smoker, a cooker out there as well. And so I would suggest that we probably sell those. I think we could. I don't know that we need to keep them. There might be a rarest of occasions that we'd need a van, but if that's not maintained and kept up and driven, again, it's one of those things that declines. So I'm open to that, but that is ours. We've just got to get the title transferred and all that sort of thing. But I have had people ask me about purchasing it. So if the messengers want to make that decision, we can do that. So one of the things that I got was a concern about the location. That part of having this location was its centrality to different areas in the community, and that sometimes, especially in football season, there's a little dab of tension between Canton and Waynesville. I know, but people take it seriously. But the reality is that I drove from East Waynesville to here this evening, and it was under 7 minutes. So if you're coming from the other parts of the county, it's actually going to be closer than this. If you're coming from that side, it will add 6 to 7 minutes, but that's not that much difference. And so I don't think that being on the east side, now if it's on the west side of Waynesville, it might be a little more challenging, but being on the east side, it's not far from here, and it's also very easily accessible, nice roads to get in there, not a bunch of hills to climb to get up to it. As far as handicap access, it's level ground, being able to go in, except for the upstairs rooms, of course. So I think that matter of accessibility is good, and so it's not going to be an issue, I don't believe. But just want to say to you that we're Baptist, and so we're congregational in terms of our government. And so at the October meeting that takes place, you're going to get a chance to vote on this. And if you didn't get a chance to speak to it here, you will have that opportunity. And we're not trying to cram something down your throat. We want God's will to be done. All I would ask you is to consider what we've shared and to pray about it. And to know that we're looking not just short term, but we're looking long term of what can be done if the Lord tarries His coming. And so we're not going to get in a fuss about it. We're not going to have a quarrel. We're going to be, even if we disagree about the direction, we're going to arrive at that conclusion, I hope, because we really ask God and we've come to that conviction. But we'll do it peaceably as we discuss it. And I want you to know that we're going to go forward, whatever. If we stay here, if we go there, we're going to try to be faithful to God. So that's the spirit in which we will approach this. But I think it's a great opportunity. I'm excited about it. Our leaders saw this and cast that vision. We've got some solid men in charge of that. But ultimately, the messengers get to make that decision. This is Haywood Baptist Association. Well, I want to introduce to you Margaret Burnette. She's currently a member of Encouraging Word. And her background, as she'll share with you, is the East Waynesville Church. And what she shared with me touched my heart, and asked her if she would mind to share it with you.
Thank you. So my maiden name was Mashburn, and my parents were Earl and Ada Mashburn, and my father was very influential in starting East Waynesville Baptist Church. And so he and my mother became charter members. That was back in 1952. The first services, the first building, let me say that, was a prefab building that had been used by Dutch Cove Baptist Church and was in storage at Allens Creek Baptist Church. And so the Allens Creek Baptist Church men moved it to a lot there on Woodland Drive. And the first pastor was Reverend G.H. Shope, Jr. Then there was the old school building up the road, and it was called a community building at that time because the school no longer met there. So in April of '53, East Waynesville purchased that building and moved in. The present building was dedicated in '65. So East Waynesville was my church until 1994, when the Lord led me and my husband into the migrant Hispanic ministry. When I heard that East Waynesville Baptist Church had dissolved, I was very sad and concerned. And I started the what if game, what if it becomes apartments? What if it becomes a non-evangelical church location? All those things went through my mind. And so I knew that worrying about it was not going to help at all. And I began to pray that God's will be done and that He would lead the Haywood Baptist Association officers into making a right decision. So when I heard about this, it was like, well, wait a minute, I'll just tell you, at first I was like, what? A mission center? And then as I thought it through, it's like, yes, Lord, I see that as the answer. So I'm very much in favor of this proposal. I think the plans to have this as a mission center would honor the legacy of all the members that have come before us at East Waynesville Baptist Church. And you mentioned about the location, but you've got to remember, before the association office was here, it was just down the street from East Waynesville Baptist Church on Leatherwood Street.
Didn't know.
So, you can't go far from East Waynesville Baptist Church. I just hope that everyone will consider this prayerfully and vote according to the way the Lord leads you. But I want you to know, as a former member, I am definitely in favor of this proposal.
Thank you, Ms. Margaret. Thank you so much. Well, wasn't that exciting to hear? And so I'll say this in closing, since Margaret surfaced this, and this will be the end of our discussion tonight. She mentioned about the possibilities if we don't do this, that church building could be repurposed as apartments. It happens, or a restaurant, or that sort of thing. Let me tell you about the time I pastored in Charlotte, that there was a good, strong, healthy church in the suburbs named Shamrock Drive Baptist Church, and probably had about 300 in attendance on a regular basis. Well, years later, Shamrock Drive went into decline. That church was closed. And so do you know what it is today? It's an Islamic center. Wow. So where a pastor once stood and preached, now there's an imam. Where the Bible was used, now there's the Quran. Where pews were located, where people sang the praises of God. Now there are prayer mats that are down there where people bow toward Mecca and worship that false religion. And so I'm not trying to scare you or make you feel like that's what would happen over there. I'm just saying to you that as we think about the future, let's have intentionality and prayerfully consider this. So thank you for your time. I hope you've listened. If you do have questions in the meantime, because I'm going to be posting this ahead of our meeting, feel free to call and talk to me or any of our officers to come by and have a discussion. And you know my heart about this, but I certainly want to hear your heart as well. So thank you so much. God bless you and good night.